Hello and welcome to Writing Wednesday. So I honestly thought I would have more time to settle into the series before something kind of like pop culture-y came up, but no. Recently the trailer for the Netflix reboot reimagining for the Winx Club series came out. And if you watched my Preptober series, you'll know that one of the kind of like main ideas I had floating in my head was based off of Winx Club, and I should probably mention I am a very big fan of the original series. I have written fan fiction about Winx Club that is available just for anybody to see. I'll link it down below. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the trailer and what the new Netflix series looks like it's going to be based off of the trailer and sort of further speculation. So for those not aware, Winx Club is originally an Italian cartoon that began premiering in, I believe, the early 2000s. The concept is Harry Potter meets Sailor Moon with a cast of originally 5, but then it grew to 6 main characters who are fairies who, for at least the first 3 seasons, attend a college for fairies called Althea, and they have various villains and bad guys that they fight season to season, and it's a very typical 2000s children's cartoon. It's a lot of fun. Now, for English speakers like me, there are actually 3 different translations of Winx Club because it was originally produced in Italian and then translated to English later on. The original dub was done by a Canadian company called Cine Lune, and I'm just assuming it's a French-Canadian company based off of the name. On YouTube, it's known as the RAI English translation, even though RAI didn't do it themselves. It was done by Cine Lune. I'm giving that name more of an Italian accent than a French accent. Maybe it's because I'm talking about an Italian cartoon. The second translation, which is the translation I grew up with and I'm most familiar with, is the translation by 4Kids, if you remember that. 4Kids made some interesting translations of anime back in the day, but I actually do like their translation of the first 3 seasons of Winx Club. And I do mean first 3 seasons, because after the 3rd season, the company that produces Winx was bought out by Viacom, which owns Nickelodeon, and so the series was sort of relaunched or rebooted on Nickelodeon. They restructured it by condensing down the first 3 seasons into, I believe, 2 or 3 separate specials, and then from season 4 onwards until I believe season 7 or 8, the English translation was produced by Nickelodeon. So because there are so many different English versions of Winx Club, I didn't mind when I first heard that the new Netflix adaptation was going in a different direction. Even though the 3 separate translations were essentially adapting the same material, there were both major and minor differences in their scripts. For example, whether or not this character is called Layla or Aisha, or whether or not Tecna is a fairy cyborg. Yes, that is real. There were also a fair number of differences in voice acting as well. Part of the reason why I like the 4Kids version the most is because I feel like the characters' voices were all very distinct in that version, even though because they were trying to differentiate the voices, they could come off as kind of outlandish and overly cartoony. Like in my mind, Muse's voice will always be super scratchy, and Tecna will always have a British accent.
Yo, if you plan to blow up more stuff, let us know ahead so we can bounce.
Cool, my name is Tecna.
So anyways, onto the trailer. It looks like they are starting with 5 of the Winx, like how they did in the original first season, which on a surface level, I don't mind. However, I am a little salty that the character not included is Tecna, simply because she's my favorite character. Everyone assumes my favorite character would be Musa because I look the most like her, but my favorite character growing up was Tecna because as a kid, I loved technology. My favorite color was purple. So Tecna was also the only character I was allowed to be for Halloween because her costume didn't involve a crop top. Actually, it was her and Flora whose Winx transformations didn't have like a cropped element to it. But I remember looking at every Spirit Halloween and like Costume Shop, Party City, or whatever place that sells Halloween costumes, and I could not find a Tecna Halloween costume, being very disappointed. But as much as I would like to be optimistic about the new series, there are some things about the trailer that do worry me. I think Bloom looks great, I think Stella looks great, I think Aisha looks great. It's great casting there. I want to like the direction they're going with Flora. I remember a common critique of the original series being that all the girls were hyper thin with itty bitty figures. So I do like the idea of there being more body diversity in Winx Club. However, I know Flora was of a kind of medium tan skin tone. I don't know if there was ever like an official real world equivalent race assigned to her. It's not like Musa, where based on her parents' clothing and the few shots we got of her home planet, it was very clear that she was supposed to be a Japanese type character, or her character and planet were supposed to emulate Japanese aesthetic. Speaking of Musa, at first, I wasn't sure whether the character to the far left was Tecna or Musa. And to be fair, both a lot of her casual outfits and her fairy transformations have had purple-pink color combos. But one of the great things about Winx was even if the characters had similar color combinations or some of their colors kind of crossed over, you could still tell very easily which character was which because every girl had a very distinct look. And while I understand that in live action you can't have the crazy flowing hair or the extreme body proportions of a cartoon, unless you're the CW, other than Aisha, there is nothing visually differentiating the girls in the trailer other than their general color. Like a lot of the complaints I was seeing about the trailer online is that people wanted the early 2000s fashion that the Winx girls had in the first 3 seasons. And I personally understand why they wouldn't want to bring that back, even though a lot of that stuff is coming back into fashion now. TV shows in general are trying to get away from that sort of gratuitous male gaze of women in skimpy outfits. And while a skimpy outfit in and of itself is not inherently misogynistic, I could see the producers or creators of this new Netflix adaptation being afraid of sort of making an implied statement with putting the Winx girls in these, like early 2000s, very revealing clothes, because that was one of the original criticisms of the original show. However, with that being said, I still do not like the outfits they showed in the trailer. It's just very generic. You can give all of the girls a distinct look without having to resort to kind of the more risque outfit choices of the earlier seasons. Like Musa was always sort of more punk rock, and Tecna was always preppier, and Layla or Aisha was the sporty one. In the later seasons, the Winx Club largely transitioned out of early 2000s fashion and the skimpier outfits, and all of the characters were still able to keep a recognizable identity within their outfits. But also, why leave Tecna out at all? If you can't tell, my eyeshadow look is based off of Tecna. Having powers of technology is one of the things that drew me to her as a character. I just feel like in fantasy series, having technology as part of your powers is a thing that really hasn't been done outside of maybe like X-Men. And it was one of the things that made Winx Club stand out from all of the female-centric children's magic action shows of the time. I think it still would make it stand out today. And Musa. The actress's name playing Musa is Alicia Applebaum, and I couldn't really find any other work from her, and I don't know if she's white or if she's mixed race. I honestly couldn't tell. But I mean, come on. Is it selfish to want a character in your fiction that looks even vaguely like you? Obviously, I'm not Japanese, I'm Chinese, but you know, close enough. Okay, so here's some things that I want from the new Netflix adaptation. I want there to be a balance between the main plot and sort of insights into the girls' personal lives. One of the big complaints about the original cartoon, particularly in the later seasons, was that the cartoon focused too much on the overall plot and really only focused on the personal character development of the main character, Bloom. Whereas in the first 3 to 4 seasons, all 6 girls in some way kind of dealt with some personal issues alongside of kind of the main villain bad guys. I want outfit transformations. So this is kind of where the Sailor Moon influence came in a bit into the cartoon. Every episode, each character had this 15-second costume transformation. And every season or so, there would be new costume transformations and new sequences. I just need one. I would hope that the new live-action adaptation does not need transformations every episode like the original cartoon uses in order to pad out the runtime. But the creators of this new show themselves have admitted that they are aiming with this new show to target older women who grew up with the original show and are still interested in the property. So I think having at least one transformation in one episode is a good homage to the original cartoon. Now, obviously, I want Techno. Like I said, the original cartoon only started out with 5 Winx girls and then added Aisha in the second season, so if they do something similar with Tekna, I would be willing to forgive not including her in the trailer. That's just my personal nitpick. So yeah, those are the breakdown of my critiques of the trailer for the Winx Club adaptation on Netflix. I mentioned earlier that I have written Winx Club fanfiction in the past, and honestly this new trailer has kind of sparked my interest in writing Winx Club fanfiction again. It has also sparked my interest in maybe starting an original fiction idea that is inspired by Winx Club. I did talk about this in that Preptober video, but it ended up going with another project for NaNoWriMo. So I think that idea might have to sit on the back burner until I'm done with the first draft of my NaNoWriMo project. But yeah, I do think I am going to pick up writing Winx Club fanfiction again, even if just to get out my anger and frustration at the trailer. Oh my gosh, I'm almost done with this Bite Lip crayon. I think this was the Sephora birthday gift like 1 year ago or 2 years ago. And like I've hit the end of it. I can't twist it up any farther. Oh, hello helicopter. So yeah, that was this week's Writing Wednesday. I did not expect to be talking about Winx Club this week, but here we are. Let me know what you thought of this video. Have you seen the new Netflix trailer? Did you watch the original Winx series growing up? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.